Doors. Oh, how I hate making doors. But I'm just gonna do the frames the same way I did the windows. I've got my sticky tape on there. I just traced onto the paper, excuse me, the shape of the door so it's guaranteed to fit. I've got these glued together and they're setting. And then I have a piece of wood I'm going to put in as the main door, but I'm going to glue craft sticks on both sides to kind of beef it up and make it look like it's a planked door. I'm not going to do metal hinges. I plan on using, as I did, hang on just a second, I'll show you. And I made this for my wizard. This is 1/6 scale, and instead of metal hinges, I used, it's ribbon. So I planned on sandwiching the ribbon. I'll use it on the door as well. So let's say this is the inside and the door is going to open inward. I'm just going to put ribbon hinges that will attach to the wall, and then they'll attach to the inside of the door. And then I'm going to do a frame to finish the inside, and then on top of the ribbon I'm going to take cardstock, like these, this is all cardstock or really thin chipboard, I don't remember which I used, and I'm just going to paint it to look like metal, like there are metal hinges on the interior. So that's the plan. I'll do that on here. So I'm just gonna round up some craft sticks and get them cut to the size I need, and I will check back in. One thing I forgot to add, I am going to go in and paint the base of the door in the burnt umber, so that when I'm building on top of this, I don't have to worry about the cracks between the boards being this light color. So I'm just going to paint the whole thing all the way around, sides, front, back, and get that done and ready to go. I think I'll just let this, yeah, you guys don't need to watch me paint. I'm sure you know how to handle that part. Bye. All I'm doing now is weathering the boards. My sticks weren't long enough, so I had to piece them in, so I'll just cover that with a cross beam. Nothing is glued into the frame. I just have the door sitting down in there to make sure that all the boards, once cut and shaped, will fit inside. And then I'm going to glue them all onto this piece here. Do the same thing on the other side, and then I'll deal with the hinge after I get it all finished. If you don't have one, I suggest getting a cheap little nail drill to do sanding jobs. I have the door surround is done. But in order for it to fit in the casement properly and swing as it should, I'm going to sand kind of round this edge a little bit and then sand these down so everything is nice and smooth so that it swings as it should. And then I can paint these boards. Alright, this is the painted door. I've roughed it up. I ended up having to do quite a bit of sanding once I got it put together so that it would fit comfortably in the frame and be able to swing properly. I need to put sealant on it, but right now it is raining again. So I need to wait because I've been using the spray sealant. So I'm just going to keep going with that because I want them to all look the same, get a nice cohesive look. I need to make hinges. I don't know if, let's see if I can do this one-handed. It's gonna sit like that, but then I had some issues with my frame while I was putting it in. It broke. So I just basically just hot glued the frame in 2 pieces. And then I've got gaps. So yes, while I would like to put another frame on the wall around this way, I'm going to have to think on that because like I said, I'm using ribbon hinges. So whatever I hook the door onto with the hinges, it needs to be a completely level with these parts. And I'm afraid that if I put some trim around the door, it's going to be too high. It's not going to be level unless I bring the door and have it sit farther back in the casement from the outside, which could technically work because then I could put a nice frame around the exterior too. I don't know. I'm going to think on it. Right now I'm going to draw up a design so that I can do the wrought iron hinges and I want the longer, nice looking pieces with little rivets and whatnot. Nothing too ornate, but more than just a shorty little iron hinge. So I'm going to work on that, get a design drawn up, round up my really thin chipboard. I think I've got a cereal box around here somewhere, which is what I plan on using to cover the ribbons and make the hinges out of. I need to find my nail art little rivet looking gems to stick on there. So I'm just going to locate some supplies and I will show you guys what I come up with for a design. I'm working on some hinges and some ironwork to go on the door. You can see this is the ribbon that I use. I think I got it at the dollar store even. So super, super cheap. Still haven't been able to seal it because it's still raining, but I'm just going for it. If I need to, I can brush on a matte sealant, or I can spray the whole thing after I do the hinges and whatnot and shine them up with paint. But yep, that's where we're at. I just used my hole punch, my little oak leaf, and cut some squares and some bars, and we're going to paint them to look like wrought iron. Okay, last project for the night. They look kind of gross right now because they're just covered in a mix my 50/50 black paint and matte Mod Podge just to kind of stiffen them up a little bit. They won't take any abuse because the fabric, the ribbon hinges will. And I finally got the door sprayed because it stopped raining long enough for me to run out on my deck and throw some sealant on it, which is good. And then I will come back in the morning and I will throw some metallic paint and some little rivets on these and make them look like wrought iron. Good morning. I'm trying to work out. I want to do some kind of a sliding bolt or lock on the door. I managed to screw up one of my hinges. So I had to remake one of those, but I will go ahead and I will paint that when I paint the lock. Now what I'm doing, this is going to be a piece that goes around the door. That's going to be part of the frame, I've decided. I'll just have to make sure that it's even with the crossbars. So I've got this propped up on a little dollar store miniature Jenga block just so that I can work on these pieces nice and evenly. Now my plan is, oops, that's going to go there, that's going to go there. This is going to slide back and forth. This is just a paper clip that I bent into a weird shape. I've taken cereal box and I'm making little latches, and to get the width of these and make sure it's consistent, I'm just using a skinny stick, which might be a little too big, but I'd rather have them even. And whereas it's a lock on the front door, it's allowed to be more substantial than the scale would normally dictate here. So I'm going to go ahead and cut another strip because I need one for the other side to go there. It'd be easier if these things were in place, but that's not going to happen yet because I'm not ready to glue anything down. But this will slide. I want this to be able to slide, and I want this first stopper to stop it. And then when I unlock it, I'm going to slide this over and position this. See, it's really fiddly. I'm going to position this bar so that it'll rest however far it needs to come over this direction. It'll stop it that way, if that made any sense. Can you guys see what I'm doing here? So this will slide this way. This one will stop it. When it slides back to open and release from here, then this bar will stop it. So I need to make another one of these to put here that this can slide into. My hands are not working, it's very early. Okay, but to bend this, what I've done is just take my fingernail and bend one end. And then I'm taking a wooden little bamboo skewer. I'm holding it down, taking my tweezers, and then I'm pressing this down around both sides like that to make it to round it. Oops, like that. And then I can just trim off the end on this side. And these will firm up. I know you can take super glue and firm up cereal box and cardboard and cardstock and all kinds of things, but honestly, since I'm going to glue them all down onto the wood, and then I'm going to paint them, and then I'm going to coat them in Mod Podge. So by the time I get that done, then things will be, they'll stiffen up enough to hold their shape. Like I did on my little treasure chest. So that's what I'm working on right now. I need to get these. These will go on like that. I still haven't done any dry brushing or anything on them. I was going to wait until I get these coated and painted up with some Mod Podge and black paint. And then after that, I have, normally for rivets and 1/6 scale, I use these, but they're nail decals. They've got a little bit of adhesive on the back, and I usually secure them with super glue. But because this is 1/12 scale, I'm probably going to end up using, again, these are nail decals, but these are little gems. These are smaller, so I'm going to put those in the corners to simulate rivets, and anywhere where it would be attached. So like, you know, on either side of these, I'm going to put a couple on the bars in between, and I'm going to do those on both sides, and then the hinge plates on the wood frame or the door frame on this side, I'm going to do the same thing, but it's just going to be a regular plate. It's not going to be ornate. It's just going to go on the wood frame, but on this side. So I will do rivets on that as well to hold it in place. And the reason I screwed up this one is because I was laying in bed and I'm like, oh man, I wanted a little more decorative. So I went and I angled and cut all the pieces off, and then realized that I hate it because I want it to look rough, and it's just going to be a simple wrought iron square that the decorative oak leaf is on top of. And I need 4 corners to put the rivets in, so I kind of screwed myself on that one. Hence, I need to make a replacement, so I'm doing that. That's where I'm at right now. I'm going to, oops, drop my tweezers. I'm going to get these glued down. I think I'm just going to put some spray paint on the paper clip. I've got a sharp edge. I don't know what I'm going to do with that. Technically, I should have made it longer and maybe wrapped a piece of cardstock around it. I don't know. Maybe I'll put a dab of wood glue. Not real sure. But once it's black, it'll look less like a paper clip, and I will go from there. So I will check back in when I've got these all done up and painted. And then I will have to work on getting the door frame installed in the cottage around the door before I can attach this. So I'll need them to line up perfectly. So that'll be kind of tricky because I have to reach inside my dollhouse and get it on there. Anyway, that's the plan. I'm feeling kind of under the weather today, so I don't know how much I'm going to get done, but I would like to at least get the lock pieces finished before I have to play chauffeur to my daughters who want to go run some errands today. That's it. I'll be back in a bit. Okay, change of plans. I didn't want to use the paper clip because it just looks too much like a paper clip. So I'm going to roll with a skewer because that's what I'm using to make the arches. But because I want it to slide smoothly, I'm taking part of this same skewer and I'm going to sand it down so it's thinner. I've already started. And then I'm going to have to figure out a little handle. So I don't know if I'm going to glue a wooden bead or another piece of skewer or something. I just need a piece that's going to stick out to grab onto to slide it back and forth. So my plan is to figure that out. I've got it marked on here somewhere with a pencil mark of where it needs to be attached. And then, because I don't want to paint the crossbar after it's already attached, I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to paint everything. Leave the top of these tabs loose because I've only got the bottom part glued down. Then I'm going to slide the painted bar in from the top and then affix the top of the tabs. So I will check back in when I decide how I'm going to make the handle and after I have things painted and ready to go. I forgot. I also need to make some door pulls, some handles. So I'm just taking, again, some cereal box. I happen to have these round wooden beads, and I only have a few left, so I need to figure out where I got them and hunt them down because I want to get some more. And then I'm just going to glue them down to the little plate on each side. So we have door handles. And I went ahead and just sanded down another piece of skewer and took some wood glue and glued it to the bar that's going to slide back and forth. I got all the little gems that will become rivets on all the little pieces. And yes, it's a pain in the butt, but it'll be worth it. So I'm going to let the super glue make sure it cures a proper amount, and then I'm going to throw some flat black paint on the gems to dull them out a bit. And then I will do some dry brushing on all these little pieces. Then I have to move on to the door frame, because I'm not going to attach these two pieces until I get the door up onto the frame. I had some issues. So the little piece that I had put together for the crossbar had a little too much drag, and it just did not want to slide like I wanted it to. So I realized that I had, just sitting in the pile of crap on my desk, I had used a little tiny, one of these little micro Q-tips with just a teeny bit of cotton on the end of them. I had used one to paint in somewhere really, really small, and I'm like, oh, don't waste the wooden end, because, you know, as miniaturists, we just kind of hoard everything. So I clipped it off and threw it to the side of my desk, and there it sat. So when I needed to take this guy out of there, I realized, oh yeah, no problem. I'm going to use the little guy because it was thinner than the sanded skewer. Unfortunately, I had already glued down the tabs, so I had to break this off, slide it out, and because I was afraid that this one was going to drag too much after I painted it, I colored that bar with Sharpie. So then I tried to glue another piece to make, you know, like this one was, glue the handle on there. I tried super glue, it didn't want to hold. I tried wood glue, I didn't want to sit there forever and hold it, so in the end I took a little tiny piece of cereal box and I just made a thin strip and snuck it underneath the bar, and I'm gluing the two pieces together so that that will be the handle once it grabs hold. But then I'm going to have to paint it while it's already on here and be very careful about that. So that's where I'm at. Haven't even gotten the dry brushing done yet. I got as far as putting things down on some tape to hold them in place, and then realized I had some lock issues. I'm just trying to make sure it doesn't stick to my back plate. And then I will be back once this has taken hold enough that I feel safe moving it around and can paint over it. And then I will return to show you guys the dry brushing. Thought I was recording a minute ago, but apparently not. It's a good thing I peeked. I'm just doing some dry brushing. To bring out the leaf and the rivet detail on these metallic pieces. I'm going a little heavier than I normally would because obviously they're supposed to be wrought iron, so I shouldn't normally wouldn't do as much of a metallic as bright as I am, but because a lot of these are made out of wood, I want to kind of really force that illusion too, because I want to make sure that no wood grain peeks out. So they're allowed to be a little shinier than I would normally want them to be. My little plates over here, it seems to be holding. On these, because of the little pieces that go over, I want to make sure normally I dry brush from the top because that's where the light's going to hit, but because these have little bands that run that direction, I want the edges of the bands to pick up those highlights. So I'm going this direction. Then I can get the edge on the plate itself, if that makes sense. Hopefully it does. And as I said, I'm going a little heavier than I normally would. And I won't add a lot of that chocolate brown metallic. But you can see how it really worked to bring those wooden rings out. I'm going to zoom in here so you can see it a little better. If I can get the camera in the right spot. Never guess it was wood now, huh? That's the whole point of the situation. I'm going to bust out some of that brown. Ooh, oops. Because I like this combination so much, I have a feeling I'm going to have to go get some more of this chocolate metallic brown, because if I run out, I will probably cry. Love this stuff. Not a ton on here, but just enough that it'll warm it up a little bit, and when it catches the light, you'll notice it. And I am going to go back over the opposite direction on some of these leaves too. Pick up some of the edges from the other direction. I don't know if you can hear my washing machine in the background. Our laundry room's down here, so most times I'm multitasking. Got a little more brown on that one piece than I wanted to, but again, that particular piece is going to be inside the cottage where it's darker. So I'm not as concerned. Okay, hang on, I'm going to let these dry for a second, and then I'll pick a couple up and put them closer to the camera so you can see them a little better and kind of shift them around so they catch the light. Okay, a little closer. Look at how these work here. That will slide through. There's our little lock, our little door handles, little knockers there, and our bars, and the ribbon will be hid under this piece of hinge, and the other piece of ribbon that attaches to the door frame will be hidden under this one. So as I gently peel this off, it'll sit like that's how it's going to look when it's attached. So this is the door frame piece, this is the door piece. So my next order of business is to put the door frame together. I've got a couple of sticks cut out to the right size that I'm going to do vertically. And then I think I'm going to take a larger craft, like a square dowel, and then I'm going to run a bigger piece along the top, a wider piece, like I'm going to do above the fireplace. And I'll flank the fireplace vertically with 2 of these smaller pieces as well. I think that's the plan. So I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to get my door frame situated, and then I will come back and I will get these. Well, I can put these on the door, glue those on, but then I need to get the frame pieces on the frame, if that makes sense. I shall return. This is the scary part. I went in and I put the 2 side pieces of the frame and glued them down with some hot glue and some tacky glue. I made a little step for underneath to address that little piece that was between there, and I just think it looks cute. So my next job here, I have it exactly in place where I want it, so I need to glue down those pieces of ribbon, and then when those are in place, then I will put the little hinge pieces on, and then after that I need to glue down the other side where the lock is, and I have to do that very, very, very carefully. And I will just use tacky glue for that because I want to have some wiggle room. So I'm gonna do that real quick. I don't feel comfortable enough doing that with the camera on, because I'm afraid it's gonna get in my way, and this is really delicate. So I will be back once those are glued in place. Whew, that was stressful. All right, let me show you. Even out my wonky table here a bit. Gonna have to be really careful with it still because I just put this piece on. I did go ahead and put a large beam up above the door. I'm gonna do the same type of beam above the fireplace, and then I haven't decided if I'm going to. I might bring a little bit of stone from the fireplace out and put a couple pieces around the sides. I'm not real sure yet. I haven't decided. But anyway, the door. It is functional. You lift the little latch up, you slide it over, and the door opens. And it will it'll only open inward. So you'll notice that I've got some gaps. I'm so afraid. Until everything's completely dry, I'm all paranoid. You'll notice that there's some gaps around the edges, but whereas the door only opens inward, I think I can frame the exterior, and I can go pretty far over, even if I have to go a little bit to cover the gaps. I'm not sure. I mean, otherwise, a couple gaps aren't the end of the world, considering how long that took to get the door finished. And I still have to do another door. I don't know. I'm going to think on the gaps. Haven't decided yet. But that is the door itself so far. So I'm going to stop this video here, and then the next time around I will go ahead and either I'll be making another door, which I don't really know that I need to do a video for because it's going to be pretty much like this one, or I think the fireplace is the next order of business. I'll try to get this done when I do the beams. I need to do ceiling beams, and I need to do all the wood trim and all kinds of woodwork on the inside walls as well as the exterior walls. So I'm going to leave this one here, and I am going to go and get some other things done. I gotta go get some groceries, you know, real life stuff. And I'll check back in next time around. Thanks for stopping by, guys.